All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to your weekly market check-in here with myself, Greta Wall. I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. Happy Thursday, David. How's your day going so far?
Uh, the most quiet day of the week as we all wait for tomorrow, which is, I don't mind. It's been pretty
Yeah.
full week, so I'm kind of enjoying the quiet for till tomorrow.
I was gonna say this is probably the quietest day I've probably ever seen in Inner Circle. Usually, like when the market opens, my phone is like boom, 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 boom. You guys are like trimming, adding, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, the alert. Like, there's just not much going on because as you and the rest of the market, we're all waiting for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day of the week that everyone has been waiting for. So that's the title of our stream today, Waiting for Powell. So let's start there. We've been in a week leading up to a big event. Jackson Hole Symposium starting today for the Fed, but tomorrow is the big day. Fed Chair speech is at 10 a.m. Eastern. How's it been navigating a week heading into something at the end with not as many catalysts in the midweek?
Not bad, because whether luck or just my conservative nature, sometimes I was kind of prepared for a little bit of risk off. People maybe tweak their books ahead of such an event. So just being aware of the climate, what was working, like recently home builders and bio, and what maybe had some profit taking come in, like big cap tech and some of the AI names. I think we're kind of on top of the fact that that might be the case. So if anything, it's provided some opportunity and some decent trading ahead of what will be the main events of the week. So far so good. I guess if you thought all was status quo till you heard from Powell, it was a difficult week. It was a busy week, but it wasn't like it was very clear to me what was going on. There was a lot of winners being sold across the board, anything related to AI and tech, while a lot of the laggards were being bought and bought aggressively. So I saw the rotation from Monday on, and it kind of continued up till this morning, where there's a little bit of uh, you know, an inverse trade where some tech's finding some buyers and some of the value plays are taking a break. So we've been on top of it thus far.
All right. When it comes to tomorrow and leading into tomorrow, talk about your strategy, your plan ahead of 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then what you think the market is looking for and what you'll be listening for in particular when it comes to the Fed chair speech, because you always have a pretty good read on this is what he said that matters and this is what we need to do. So what are the key things that you're listening for tomorrow morning?
In short, if he somehow relates to the street that he is equally or more so worried about jobs and a slowdown than he is inflation, that's all we need. That will create a powerful rally. What I wonder, a lot of people don't understand, is it may not be the rally they assume. It may not be NVIDIA and Palantir. It may be a lot of mid cap and small cap stocks, while AI related stocks are up some. But it might be more to do with IWM and XBI and some mid cap leaders like the Asteras and TEMs than it is NVIDIA, Oracle, and Microsoft. On the flip side, if he is his typical self and he's really neutral and wants to emphasize that inflation, although it's taking a while to show up, is finally showing up, and he is first and foremost concerned with inflation, then I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a 1.5–2% pullback. The good news, a lot of people I think are on edge that maybe he won't be dovish enough, and that helps the bull somewhat. But the big thing I'm looking at is the rally we may get by a Powell who's a bit more dovish than anticipated may not be the rally we're used to. It may not be about Oracle, Microsoft, and Apple, like I said. It may be about ALAB, TEM, and a bunch of home-related stocks, home builders, and more interest rate related names. So I'm open-minded because I really I don't know where he's at. I think I've looked at this and I can't come up with what he's going to do tomorrow. Like I don't have a good gauge, because one side of me says, okay, if you look at the situation, we're not in desperate need of a rate cut. The economy is doing fine. There's areas outside of AI where the economy is not on fire by any stretch, but we're not in bad shape by any stretch. We're not in need of it. Then the flip side is, if you just take out the build out by AI and all these companies, which encompass so much, right? It's not really about NVIDIA. It's about everyone that's backing up in NVIDIA and all the electricity companies. I mean, it's such a big theme. So if you take all that out, the middle class isn't exactly killing it. And housing has a lot to do with that, because let's face it, the housing market sucks for a couple of years now. Go to Austin. They're like giving houses away for free. Same thing in Arizona, and other places. Someone's going to tell me about New Jersey and a place where supply demand is different. But in places that matter, right, that kind of formulate housing prices like LA and on, they're not in great shape. So he has a reason to also cut, because everyone except for rich people aren't killing it. Rich people continue to kill it. So the question is, which does he consider more important? And then there are a lot of people who simply think it's about, his reputation. And if it's about his reputation, then he's got to prove that he can't cave to the administration, which means he's going to be neutral and finally say, hey, guess what? I got 2 data points coming up. I don't have to give you anything today, because I'll listen to what the CPI tells me. I'll listen to what NFP tells me, and then come back to me. I don't care that it's Jackson Hole. So I find tomorrow a really hard day to gauge. The only thing I know is the climate. Where are we pre that, right? We are selling winners. Microsoft, great numbers, they take it away. Meta, great numbers, they take it away. Palantir, great numbers, they take it away. So all I know is that right now, regardless of how positive or negative the news is, there's a change going on. There's a large rotation in the market. And I'm open-minded to see what he does tomorrow, because I think he has reason to be neutral, and I think he has reasons to be a bit more dovish than normal.
Yeah. And like with an earnings event with an individual stock, heading into an event like this, I think it matters kind of looking at the broader market. What have we been doing the 4 days heading into this? And definitely not continuing to rally.
Right. We took, the Palantirs came in, the Microsofts came in. So it makes it at least more palatable to have a rally than just ripping right into it and putting all the pressure on a dovish presentation.
Yeah. CNAC from Twitter, I see your questions about Upstart. I will get to them. We will get to questions in a little bit. So anyone else who has questions, specific things you want David to take a look at, put those questions in and we'll get to them at the end. All right. Jackson Hole is kind of normally a non-event. Nobody really cares about Jackson Hole except for
it's a big event. Some of my biggest days in the history of my career are actually Jackson Hole. Was it 2 years ago? Where he said something, I said, guys, this market is about to get crushed. I said, he is telling you to sell. For us, Jackson Hole's been a very big event. Wasn't last year, I think it was the year before. But Jackson. So to me, the way money management works, if something only happens 20% of the time but can give you an outsized move, that's huge. So it's huge. The same way, I'd rather own less stocks, but the ones that I think provide, way more upside than downside. So even if 50% of the time it's a non-event, that other 50%, when it is, it's so big. So to me, it's huge. We've had some of the biggest moves in history off Jackson Hole.
The economic backdrop heading into Jackson Hole. Last week we got a little bit cool, like a little cool CPI, and then a hot PPI, which had the market all freaked out. That was after a really a big miss on the NFP, and that big NFP miss had the market like 99% were getting a September rate cut. People were talking about 50 basis points, and then the PPI threw cold water on all of that. Now the betting on a rate cut in September is just over 71%. So we've definitely pared back those expectations. Today, hearing from the Kansas City Fed chair, he at Jackson Hole didn't seem very on board with the September rate cut. And then, of course, we got the minutes from the Fed, so we got to see what that discussion was last time when it came to the dissenters and who wanted a rate cut, didn't, et cetera, and why. We obviously are hearing from Powell tomorrow, but with that economic backdrop, we've also gotten retail earnings this week. Target yesterday, Walmart today. Walmart down over almost 5% today, even after raising their full year outlook, because they are raising concerns about tariffs. They say their costs are rising, but they're still trying really hard to keep, costs low for consumers as best they can. What do you think about the retail earnings this week and what it has to say about the economy and the consumer?
I think Target's a mess and isn't indicative of the consumer, maybe, that they have some real issues. So I think Walmart, I think bulls and bears can take heart in the fact that they've told us, I mean, clearly today, that they will appropriate new prices as tariffs come in, but they've also told us, or perhaps Jerome Powell, that it can affect the consumer and give him reason to say, you know what, it's not so inflationary that I have to worry just about that. I also have to worry about the consumer and help them, which is maybe a bit bullish or dovish. So what I'll say is it's nothing that we didn't expect. Okay, there's going to be some tariffs, but I think if you were to judge everything as a whole, tariffs are not crushing the economy, right? It is not so inflationary that it's just the economy's crushed. So I think Powell can look at the other side and say, I also have to help things along, because although tariffs or the expense is being passed on to the consumer eventually, it's something I got to look at, and maybe I got to worry about that, the consumer, as much as I have to worry about inflation. So I'd say there might be a bit more dovishness to it than we would expect. That inflation, although prices are going up, nothing is what we didn't expect. And if you had to judge it, it's a bit less. That's the bottom line. Or it's certainly taking longer to show.
All right, let's talk about some of the trades that Inner Circle has been involved in this week. We'll start off with UNH, United Health Group. Was it last Thursday after the market closed? Yeah. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, revealed they had made a big investment in UNH. I think they're the second largest holder of UNH stock now. And you and the Inner Circle got long after hours, did some trimming on Friday, and then you guys have been active in the name this week. Talk about how you've managed UNH and how you look at this name now post a Buffett investment versus the flack they were getting heading into that investment.
Pre the Buffett announcement, I was long UNH, hoping that it would go lower. I started with the Ultra, so I could really capture a decent sized gain without a huge move in the stock. And when UNH was under 250, I started the UNHG. And I thought, there's room here if we don't have any positive news flow, that we could even see 200. So I'll just slowly accumulate this, but I have a good handle on it. I think it'll work. I was kind of shocked to see United Health without the news rally about 30 points and give me a 30% move in UNHG. So the bad news is I got out of all my stock. Then we had the Thursday news from Buffett. And I thought, well, first off, it's more of an excuse for the stock to rally, but it's good news. But relative to his other holdings, frankly, it's not that big of a position. That's the first thing people need to know relative to what he has. But it is a bona fide positive item to say, hey, one of the best or the best value investor in the history of the world likes United Health. And by the way, he likes it at a higher price than it's trading now because that's where he owns it from. So all made sense to me. And I said, well, I better get back in. It sucks to buy it higher. So Friday I said, listen, any pullback is very buyable off the open. And if we get a pullback, I don't want to chase calls for the day if we don't get a pullback, but if we get a pullback, we got to buy lotto calls because it was all on a Friday.
I would say it was your lotto of the day.
A premium. So I bought stock the minute it pulled back about 5 off the open. I bought $300 calls, and they were daily calls, so they went. I don't remember what they went up. You probably do.
216%. I remember.
They went up a lot, and we sold those. And I held the stock, and here we are today. What I've done is every time it pulls back towards 300 or under, I continue to add. I'm doing UNHG. So like yesterday, I was buying it at 16. Today, it rallied to 16.80 or 90. I trimmed a bit. And I bought the stock as well on the pullback, UNH, and today I sold that because we got to like 307 or so. So I continue to be long. I think the news flow only gets better. I also think the rotation that's happening right now in the overall market benefits them. So I will remain long for a while.
All right. I want to talk about Ethereum and BMNR, and we have a question that can go with that. You guys have obviously, BMNR has been your Ethereum play, your crypto play of choice in recent weeks and been great to you and the inner circle, a wonderful call. Sujit from Twitter asked, how do you think crypto, specifically Ethereum, would react from a dovish Fed? And then with that would go BMNR, and talk about how you've been navigating this pullback that we've seen in Ethereum and BMNR this week as well.
Sure. I think it's in a broader breakout after being really like the redheaded stepchild in crypto to Bitcoin. I think it'll never replace Bitcoin or be as important, but I think for now, it's kind of best in breed for those aggressive crypto buyers. And I think yesterday we saw proof of that. Like after a pullback, it immediately bounced as much as 4%. BMNR, I wish I could tell you every stock I buy goes up 130% in a week, but that was insane. So I actually got flat 65 through 70, and then when we finally had a pullback, I've been a pretty aggressive buyer, 50 and under, and will remain a buyer on weakness. In terms of ETH, I didn't have any directly, and then we got that pullback into 4,000. So I bought ETHU because I love to trade those short term. They're not great long term because they have erosion to being an ultra, but we had an amazing pop. I guess I bought it on the Tuesday downside. It got crushed, was down 20 points or whatever it was. Bought it yesterday when it rallied huge. I sold it, and I remain long, obviously, BMNR. BMNR, though, to be realistic, trades at a premium, right, to NAV, and has these great swings. So to give an example, a couple of days ago, as it pulled back to 49, 48, even 47s in the after hours, I bought some, and yesterday into 51, 52, and after hours, almost 53, I even trimmed some because it's having these, 4 and 5% moves every day. So I'm constantly trading around a core, and finally, I think a dovish Fed would set up for a huge rally in Ethereum, and I think eventually we'll, make a new high above, where we just stopped up near that 4,700. But I would expect it to love a dovish J Powell tomorrow.
I think most of the market would love a dovish J Powell tomorrow morning, for sure. Okay. Where is this? CNAC. Oh, he was our first question, so we'll go to him first. He asked you to share your thoughts on Upstart.
Sure.
Specifically short term into next week. Sorry.
Sure. So short term into next week, it's pretty basic, right? It started correcting before everything else. It didn't enjoy its earnings report and went down quite a bit. So I see some people this week were fooled by the strength, thinking, well, look how strong it is. Well, no, it went down ahead of everything, right? When Palantir was still going up, it was going down. And then it came into, I think it was the 200-day. I haven't looked at it in a day or two. So it's obvious to me why it held. Yeah, 200-day, and then yesterday you had the JP Morgan upgrade. So everything thus far makes sense. Now, given that it is a really kind of ultra type small cap, in other words, there's certain small cap type stocks that you can basically look at and say, these are the ultras, right? These are the powerhouses of small cap. To me, that's Restoration Hardware, that's Upstart, that used to be end phase, no longer. So I would think a dovish Powell, this lights up, right? Because it needs lower rates. It would be a wonderful thing. So short term, I would say it's literally in Jay Powell's hands. Dovish Powell, great. A hawkish Powell, I think that breaks the 200, and it's $58.
All right. Our next question, and we'll talk NVIDIA and stuff in a little bit, but if the Powell speech turns into a nothing burger tomorrow, what are your expectations for big caps like Tesla, NVIDIA, Amazon, and then what about TEM?
Well, that's a lot of them, so I'm going to cut it down. So NVIDIA is all about earnings, right? And we have seen pullbacks that literally occurred after a great earnings report where NVIDIA actually went down off a great earnings report and continued to go down the day of earnings, not like Microsoft where it happened days after. So NVIDIA to me is going to be, is the market willing, right, to compensate or pay buyers even higher up here? And my guess is it probably needs a break regardless of how great earnings are. I expect them to be epic, beautiful, gorgeous, like a supermodel. And I still don't know if the stock will go higher unless we correct more in front. I certainly think that the risk is to the downside because they can be great and the stock can still go down, or they can be not good enough, meaning we expect so much. Great company. It created the trend. It is the reason for this great bull market. And I'll always be a buyer when it has aggressive dips. It's just not the easiest print. It may actually just be flat, right? A great earnings report and flat. In terms of TEM, one of my favorite holdings, it is holding up so much better than every other name. You had like Astera Labs yesterday have an enormous pullback into the 21-day, and now it's bouncing today. TEM, while a lot of these, alpha high octane stocks are pulling back, it can barely pull back. Looking great again today. So TEM still a favorite. And frankly, I see room to 90. So I haven't sold any today on this up move, and I'll remain long and I'll remain a buyer on dips, especially under 7. You had a couple more. Well, give me one more and I'll answer.
Tesla.
Here's what I have to say. For me, it's a trading vehicle. Here's what I know. I know that in a couple of years, they have a business model that will address a bigger TAM than pretty much any other company in the history of the world. I know that's not now, so you can't formulate it in the numbers. So to a lot of people, it doesn't mean anything. To a lot of loyal shareholders, it means something. Is it worth what it is now? No, it's worth what it is now because of the future. The question is, does the future come sooner than hope? So all I can tell you now is this stock trades amazingly well. It's less volatile. On bad news, it refuses to go down and it holds well. So I recognize the stock trades remarkably well, no matter what's thrown at it, which is typically a bullish side. That's my dog. Excuse the, so, hey, shut
up. Amazon. Somebody wants to go over Amazon.
Sure. Cheapest valuation it's ever had versus cash flow and earnings. And based on that, this one I just pretty care to shut up. So based on that, I like it. I like it more on a dip to the 200-day. I was looking at it. It's been a big winner for us throughout the year. I'm flat right now. If I saw a pullback into the 200-day, I'd be pretty aggressive. Which is, I'm not looking at it, but I have a good memory. It's about 212, 211, 212. Then I'd be a buyer of Amazon. But overall, things are going great. The earnings report wasn't good enough to keep it going. Jeff Bezos sells every day. That's a pain in the neck. But overall, things are going well there. They're ingrained in AI, robotics. Retail consumers seems to be holding up. Now they're focus even more on selling cars. A lot of people don't know they've been selling cars for a while. But they signed that deal yesterday. Everything they're doing is right. It just didn't have a blowout report, so it took a break. But any pullback, especially into 200-day, I'd be a buyer.
Bezos has to pay himself back for that big wedding. Yeah. All right. I wanted to bring up Palantir, and we got a question about Palantir analysis would be appreciated. Quickly, this week, yesterday, Palantir was in focus for you, not just you, but Kira, Rick, as well as many members of the room. You guided traders through what was a difficult trade. You guys bought on the way down, held, and it bounced. Let's talk about yesterday's trade of Palantir, and then what you see in this name moving forward from here.
Max, it's the poster child for this stock market, right? Being that I'm 55, I've been through a few of these. Everything is great at that company, right? There's nothing going poorly. And the leader conveys his story in a very efficient manner. And he's also friends with the current administration. So everything's going right. There's not an analyst in this world, like a numbers guy or girl, that can say it's cheap or that it should be owned. It's one of the most egregious valuations, but that doesn't matter to a guy like me or a lot of successful investors, because stocks like this trade on TAM and just emotion. So I've been lucky enough not to fight it very often. I will tell you, I felt at 190 when Kramer was screaming 200's coming. I was like, you know what? I see an opening here. I'm pretty sure this is a short-term top. So I bought a fair amount of PLTZ. And the reason why is I wasn't sure if it would take a week or two, and I didn't want to deal with erosion for the stock. So I actually got really short. I made 15 points through the PLTZ, ended up being whatever, a point and a half, whatever it was. And it was a nice trade. But like a schmuck, what I said is, who the hell is short Palantir and never makes money? I just called the top for now. I better get out and not try and be smart because Palantir always bounces back. Of course, then it flushes and continues to go down. Here's what I'm going to say. A lot of, especially novice investors or medium-term investors, meaning they haven't been doing this a lot, they don't understand that when a stock is basically valued by story and concept and not earnings, when you don't have earnings underneath it, you can take 50% out like that, like, and Palantir is somewhere in the middle, meaning they're finally profitable and earnings are ratcheting higher and they're doing amazingly well, but it's still an insane valuation, except for the rule of 40, which frankly, if you look at price to sales, doesn't matter. So it's a crazy valuation. So the end answer to me is if there's ever a massive correction, it'll never, this is the leading stock in the market. This is the leading stock in AI outside of NVIDIA. And this is one of the more polarizing CEOs. So it's never going to be cheap, right? Unless they do something awful around the business. Is when it has these 40, 50% corrections, you buy them. It had one in April. Just recently it had a 25, 30% one. To tell you yesterday, I said, you know what? I see the setup here. It's going to get ugly. A lot of guys were buying it Tuesday. And I was like, man, this ain't done. I really think this could flush 150 and get scary and see 145. That's the number I had in my head. So yesterday at 150, I started, added 147, added 145, added 142. And I'd tell you the truth, I had to be down some serious money. I was pretty confident, but it still wasn't fun. And then when it reversed and was 150 like a schmuck, I was counting my money. I said, wow, I'm up a lot of money compared to what I was down, and I got out and missed some of the upside. Long story short, it's a tradable vehicle. It's not a value stock, and it's probably not a safe stock to own until we get closer to at least 130, the 100-day. It's like 132. And if we ever have a correction in the market, you see 100 again, you know to buy some and put it away. It's never going to be cheap. Just understand, so much of why it works is because it is the poster child of something, but that also means they can take 30% out overnight. And that's what a lot of people make mistakes on that I've learned through these markets over the years, is that markets will pull back. In fact, I was talking to Kira about this. For the last month, I said, because of Inner Circle, I said, oh, there are going to be all these average traders who've made so much money, and the minute we pull back 5–10%, they're going to get killed, because we've been killing it since April. But they're going to lose half those gains because they're not used to 30 and 40% pullbacks. So what I'm telling you is nothing has to be wrong with Palantir for it to go to 120, 130. That's entirely possible because in 99% of the markets, stocks are not valued the way this is now. So hopefully I've made that clear. Doesn't mean it's not awesome. Doesn't mean the CEO is not awesome. Doesn't mean it's not the stock to buy in a correction. Just means be cognizant of all of that.
When it comes to a trade like that, obviously, I mean, you and I have talked many times about like the mental space it takes to, you know, watch something go down, watch yourself be down a lot of money because you have a thesis that you believe in. But more broadly, you are in a more unique position than most traders because it's not just you that you have to be handling with that negative, like, oh, you're helping other traders be able to hold on and be like, guys, this is worth the pain. The risk is better, or the reward is better than this risk here. How do you help other traders get through that? You know, a lot of the comments yesterday in the chat post Palantir trade where you kept me in. I was scared, but I stayed in with you because of your guidance. How do you do that?
Well, the first is I think good traders admit what they're good at when they suck at. right? And there are a few things I'm really bad at. But there's like one thing I thrive in, that's volatility for a long time, like COVID, you name it, right? 2009 great financial crisis. So I try and remind myself, as scary as it is, this is where you thrive. Second thing is I try and it's so hard. I try and walk this tightrope, which is even if you're somewhat responsible in helping people, don't let it take you out of your game. In other words, stick with what you believe. Don't try not to over worry about people. And then I try and remind people that don't always listen. Let me do my thing during those moments. Like that's not a moment to be getting in touch with me. And then I realized that I need all my attention. Like I had a buddy yesterday who didn't listen to me as to when to start. He started it. And he wrote me yesterday. He's like, dude, I had to be down $1 million. I'm up now, but I had to be down $1 million. I wish I listened to you about starting early. And I think he thanked me. I don't remember. But the point was, it was helpful to most people that I kind of told them what the risk was, not to get too big too soon. And I think ultimately, when we go through these, because we've been through it, right? I was buying NVIDIA at 86 in April. I remember during the yen crisis, I was buying NVIDIA at 100. We've been through a lot of these moments. The calmer I am, the more vocal I am, the more detailed I am about the downside and upside. Like I don't pretend. I try not to show my nerves, because if I show my nerves, it's going to unnerve other people. But I also try and tell people, this is maybe our risk short term if we're wrong. This is my sizing. This is where I intend to trim. So everything's kind of a process, so they don't have to hear it at the moment. Like, this is what I'm thinking. This is my plan. It helps them. It helps me. So it ain't easy, but it's fun to hear. There were people yesterday like, it wasn't easy, but I won. Thank you. I wish a lot of people, of course. I wish I held sooner, longer. Yeah, me too. But ultimately, the payback is to hear people say, God, thank you. Like, had I not heard from you, I wouldn't have been calm. So it's hard, but it's rewarding in that sense.
All right. Another question from YouTube. Sorry, they said they maybe listened late, but we did not cover this yet. Are you feeling bullish on home builders? Lennar, we just got earnings yesterday from Toll Brothers, the first of the group, the big group, to report. How are you feeling about the home builders into the fall?
Rocket, DR Horton, Nail, been in them all. I recently sold Nail up at 85, and today I finally bought some back because it's taken quite a licking off Hovanian's numbers, and the whole home builders sector's going down. Just understand that tomorrow's a binary event, so these could be down much more if you have a hawkish Powell. But for the first time in a couple of years, I'm kind of bullish the home builders over the next few months. So even a hawkish Powell, I think, would be more an opportunity to buy than sell. So as a group, I'm more bullish than I've been in a long time. I've been really bearish housing for a long time. And still I'm bearish housing. I'm actually bullish the stocks because I think they're predicting what might happen 6 months from now.
Yeah. The market, it feels like we're always about like 6 months ahead of like what's actually happening in the economy.
Like if you go back in 2022, they bottomed before everything else. They tend to act before most sectors.
Okay. I know we got a lot of, we're not going to get to all these questions. One that I think might be interesting, Oscar.
Sorry,
OSCR. Oscar?
Here's what I don't like. Every retail investor is infatuated with the stock. That's what I don't like. I think the CEO, from everything I've read and listened to, I think he's a pretty iconic guy, and it's got great leadership. It's pretty profitable company. So even under this duress in healthcare, it seems like a decent stock to own. I'm just concerned that it's such a retail biased stock. That said, so was SoFi, what a winner. So was Upstart at one time, what a winner. So was Palantir, what a winner. So as much as that concerns me, retail has been more right than institutions for the past 2 years. But it does concern me because I'll be on Twitter, and before Open came along, all I read about was Oscar. So overall, though, profitable, although they recently had the lower guidance. I like the CEO, and long term, I like the story. Also, it reminds me a little bit, whoever you are, you're probably too young, but one of my biggest winners was Oxford Health. I love these upstart healthcare companies, because it's such a humongous industry that garner a lot of market share with great management. And I saw it with Oxford Health. It was awesome many years, like 2 decades ago now. And I wouldn't be shocked if long-term this is a winner like that.
All right. You briefly mentioned NVIDIA's earnings earlier. You know, that's our next big thing coming up after Powell tomorrow. Powell tomorrow is, you know, what we're all waiting in the wings for. And then NVIDIA's earnings report is next Wednesday after the market close. What are some of the sympathy plays that you might be looking at when it comes to an NVIDIA earnings report?
The obvious are going to be Broadcom, right? Of course, AVGO, AMD, and then so many of the suppliers inside, right? So of course, Dell. I don't care about SMCI, but for, you know, to be correct, I should say SMCI. But let's just go Dell, HPE, even a Micron who's doing so much work. All of these names will certainly trade in sympathy. God knows TSM, which is one of the most important companies there is in space. I would say that's a good group. Let's go TSM, Avago, AMD, all make a whole lot of sense. But, you know, here's what I don't look at for tomorrow. Like AMAT, KLA, the equipment manufacturer, less so. So it's going to be chips, and it's going to be connectivity, the Asteras of the world, names like that that can really trade off that number. And of course, MBIS, which basically is following their model to some degree in Europe.
All right, and then let's end here. Let's talk about Coreweave. Coreweave has been a great trade for you and the inner circle. Stock is up today, one of very few that is in the green today. What have you been doing with Coreweave, and then your thesis moving forward on the name?
I like planning, right? It's just what I'm like, that's where I thrive. Oh, this event's happening, this stock, this level. If it goes here, then I do this and then this. So I had a plan for a couple of weeks. Oh, I hope they kill Coreweave into the lockup. Business is phenomenal. Whether or not their balance sheet is wacky and they raise too much debt, and eventually when spending stops, they're in trouble, I don't give a damn. All I know is that right now they're doing phenomenal, top lines going crazy, and they're so connected to NVIDIA that if this does pull back enough off this lockup, it's going to be very viable. Okay, where's that spot? Oh, the closer we get to that 90, the more viable it is. So pre-market, no, after hours, the day of the lockup, because it came at the close, it traded as low as like 93. And I said, how can I make a lot of money on this without it having to bounce 30 points? Oh, there's an ultra? Okay, I never used to trade ultras, but there are all these dumb ultras. So I'll do the CWBX. So bought a ton of it as low as like 11:20 that night, right? Never got below 11. That night, and then Coreweave got back over 100, right? And traded to what was it? Got back to 100 and, I don't want to exaggerate, but like 103 maybe. Point is, CWVX bounced to 1270, and I said, we just made like 15-17% overnight. I'm selling most. So we sold most, and people are like, oh, I'm going to miss it. I'm like, this isn't a game. There's a lockup. I've been part of lockups. These people are going to want to sell. It's not done. This is probably going to happen again tomorrow. Sure enough, we hear about the blocks going off to Morgan Stanley and Goldman, 93, some blocks 95, 97. It goes down again, and then I get more aggressive because we get under 11 on the ultra, buy some size there. We bounce to almost 13, and I sold 90% of my position, and then earlier in the week got flat. Sadly, I wasn't in it today for this Jane Street news and 2 upgrades, but I will come back to it. But basically, it provided what we were looking for, an event to really get aggressive into an area that I thought really minimized risk and maximized reward. And that was close to 90, sized up in the ultra, bounced 20-25%, and done.
With the news today, looking at the chart, what are your levels that you like on Coreweave?
You got smart money buying it. It wasn't just Jane Street. There was another huge buyer of one of these blocks. And on top of it, we got 2 upgrades today. Forget the name. It's smaller firms like Wainwright and someone else. But long story short, I think as long as Powell is not hawkish, The other day, I'm not looking at the chart, but I think it was 85, 86. That probably acts as a low, and we're probably back to 100, 103, that area over the next couple of weeks.
86, you're right. You have a photographic memory for highs and lows of recent highs and lows of stocks.
Nothing else. I can't remember anyone's name.
Hey, your brain knows what it needs to know, and that is charts, stocks, prices, things that matter. All right, David is a real trader. It is a slower day in the market, but we do want to let him get back to it. So you can go to t3live.com/DP to get David's free weekly newsletter sent out on Tuesday mornings before the market open. That's t3live.com/DP. It's a completely free newsletter. You get insights, levels, analyst calls, all the stuff from David's morning call. It's a good newsletter. So again, t3live.com/DP for that. David, have a great rest of your day and a good Friday. Maybe it'll be a good Lotto Friday there in the inner circle with lots of catalyst happening with Powell. So hope it gives us some excitement, not just nothing. We need some excitement.
Good luck, everyone.
All right, have a good one.
Bye-bye.